Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, I am 29 years old, and as I get closer to the decade of 30, I feel like I'm entering this new passage of time, where the speed of time seems to be moving a lot quicker. And it's scary because I know if I'm not paying attention, the speed of time will just get out of control. I'll blink, and then I'll be 40, then 50, and then getting ready for retirement thinking, where did the time go? I think that we all reach a point when we notice that time is speeding up, when the days become quicker and life just becomes this grind, and we accept this new speed because we believe in something called the biggest lie in the world, which is at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. And we start believing certain ideals. We start believing that we have to spend majority of our days doing what we don't want to do, that risks are not worth taking, and that the universe is against us. You know, I spend a lot of my days just thinking. I mean, that's basically what this is. And in the last 7 months or so, I've come to the realization that we ultimately do have control over our own fate. We can make decisions in our lives to slow down and live a more meaningful life and not just live this life where it just passes you by. And all you need is one thing: intention. If you live with intention, time will still move, but it will move in a much more meaningful way. So in this video, I want to talk about time because I think a lot of us don't understand time. And when you understand time a little bit better, you can take intentional steps in your life to control your time, to live a more meaningful life, and not let your life just pass you by. So here are 5 intentional lessons to not let life pass you by. Lesson 1. Forgiveness is the only path forward. When talking about time, I think it's best to start with the past because we all have a past. We all have these stories that sculpt who we are. And sometimes we allow these stories to hold us back, and life passes us by because we're living in the past. There's a story I read not too long ago about a man named Ray Hinton. And Anthony served 30 years on death row in a prison in Alabama for a crime he didn't commit. Now just imagine that for a second. Spending 30 years confined to a small cell for a crime that you didn't commit, with no sunlight, no relationships, and no freedom. It's something I think is impossible to comprehend. And in 2015, after the Supreme Court found him innocent, he was released from prison. And shortly after, he was interviewed by 60 Minutes. And the interviewer asked him if he was angry for his false conviction. And the interviewer said, "They took 30 years of your life. How can you not be angry?" To which he responded, "If I'm angry and unforgiving, they will have taken the rest of my life." Often life passes us by because we're living in the past. We all have these traumatic life experiences, and sometimes we allow these experiences to fill us with anger and hate, and that one past experience continues to take away from your future. In order to keep moving in life, you need forgiveness. And forgiveness is not something that you do for other people. It's something that you do for yourself. You need to acknowledge the hurt, not forget, but not hold a grudge to it and allow this one event to continue taking away from your future. Because like Ray Hinton said, after serving 30 years on death row for a crime he didn't commit, if you live with anger and unforgiveness, that event will take the rest of your life. You can spend your whole life dwelling on an experience from the past and allow it to continue taking from your future, but the past is the past, and if you do that, the rest of your life is just going to pass you by. In order to keep moving forward and live a more meaningful life, you need to live with forgiveness. It's the only path forward. Lesson 2. The speed of time is connected to experiences. For most people, I think that childhood is the longest and slowest stage of their lives where you have the most memories. And I think it's because in childhood, you have these traits like curiosity, excitement, and willingness to learn. And when you have these traits, you create a lot of experiences. And unfortunately, when we become an adult, we lose a lot of these traits, and life passes us by because we're living the same day over and over. When we become adults, time starts to speed up because we get trapped in this routine of doing the same thing day after day, of sitting in traffic, working, coming home for dinner, and having the weekends off. And I think that the second you stop creating new experiences and you just start doing the same thing day after day after day, that's when time moves at this insanely fast pace. So many adults lose these childhood traits of curiosity, excitement, and willingness to learn that create so many experiences, and instead become set in their ways, blasé, and unwilling to learn, and they just keep reliving the same day over and over. It reminds me of the quote by Benjamin Franklin where he says many people die at 25 and aren't buried until they're 75. Often life passes us by because we stop creating new experiences. We don't try new things or eat different foods or meet new people. Instead, just stay in our comfort zone. But I believe that when you try new things, time will slow down because you're creating new experiences. You can spend your whole life reminiscing on childhood memories, acting as if experiences stop at childhood and then just let the rest of your life pass you by. But adulthood doesn't have to suck. When you make intentional decisions to try new things and create new experiences, time will slow down and life won't just pass you by because you're continuing to make new experiences in life. Lesson 3. Nothing will happen unless you make it happen. One thing that I think that really holds people back in life is waiting for this perfect moment to take a risk and do something that you want. We often want all these perfect circumstances where everything is right until we do what we want. But when we live our lives this way, life passes us by because that moment never comes. Many people spend their whole lives waiting for something to happen instead of taking active steps to make it happen. And it's scary because these perfect circumstances that you think you can avoid all risks is just imagination land. Because in life, there's always something that is going to be going on. And if you don't make it happen, it'll never happen. There will never be this perfect scenario moment where you can pursue something risk-free. If you want to seek something in life, there's always going to be these barriers you have to cross. And if you think otherwise, your life is just going to pass you by and time is going to speed up because that moment doesn't exist. You have to take personal responsibility and make it happen because the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. In order to not let life pass you by, you have to understand that you are the only one that will make something happen in your life. You can't just expect that somebody is just going to knock on your door and offer you this amazing opportunity because life, it just don't work that way. You have to take active steps to make something happen. And it's not easy. And it's not going to be equal for everyone because life isn't fair, but it's worth it. You could spend your whole life waiting for some ideal scenario until you do what you want. But if you live your life that way, then your life is just going to pass you by because life don't work that way. Nothing will happen unless you make it happen, unless you take active steps to make it happen. And it doesn't even matter if you get it, because when you live your life that way, you're living a more meaningful, intentional life. Lesson 4. Freedom is a mindset over anything else. One thing I've just become obsessed with since quitting my job and pursuing home videos full time is this concept of freedom. Because for a while, I thought that freedom was just having money, that the more money you have, the more freedom you have in life. But now I think that life passes you by when you directly connect freedom with money. Freedom is a really complex thing. I mean, when you really think about it, it is so difficult to understand. It's much bigger than just having money. And it's a dangerous thing to think that freedom is just money, because when you think that way, you risk fast forwarding through your life. Because what I have learned in the past 7 months is freedom is more of a mindset than money. As I said in my last point, nothing will happen unless you make it happen. This is the same thing with freedom. And if you just wait around thinking that freedom will come to you someday, you'll fall victim to this idea that in the future, once you save enough money to reach retirement or become financially independent, that all of a sudden you'll just feel free. And you'll end up fast forwarding through the greatest parts of your lives and be met with disappointment. In order to not let life pass you by, you need to understand that freedom is more about a mindset than it is about money. Obviously, you do need money, but you don't need as much as you think. You just need enough where you give yourself permission to do things you want to do and just trust that things will work out. Freedom is a mindset. It's an uncertain mindset, but freedom is uncertain. And you can spend your whole life thinking otherwise, that one day freedom is just going to come to you, but then you'll spend your whole life letting it just pass you by. You can embrace freedom long before you reach financial independence. You just need to be in the right mindset. And although it's uncertain, you'll be living a much more meaningful life. Lesson 5. The future is not some place, but something we're creating now. You know, I am 29, going on 30 in a few months. And now, at this phase of my life, time seems to be going faster than it has ever been going. I mean, I used to think a year was a long time. I don't feel that way anymore. And I'm starting to understand that life will pass me by if I don't live with intention. One thing this YouTube experience has taught me is to focus on today, to live in the present, because I have so much uncertainty and it stresses me out if I think too far in the future. But I've learned to embrace the present, because even if I had all the certainty in my life, even if I had $1 million, all I would have is the present. There's a quote that goes, "If you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy person. Life will be a party for you, a grand festival, because life is the moment we're living now." We spend a huge chunk of our lives living in the future. We spend so much of our lives worrying about the future, thinking that it is this destination. But the truth is, the future is what we are creating right now. When you understand that life is this moment that we're living right now, and you just give it your all every single moment, your future will probably turn out okay. When you focus on the present and creating the life that you want, your future is just probably going to be a better version of what you're doing right now. This is the only life that we're going to get, so don't let it pass you by, and be just a little bit more intentional. And with that, muchas gracias, que tengan un buen día. Video 103, nos vemos, chicos.